And at 10, Vanny. For the most part, people love Vanny. A fresh new face taking up the serial killer slot is very refreshing and very needed in the series' 9th game. However, a lot of fans are upset over the use of the character, or I guess lack thereof. In a game as big as FNAF, we see Vanny maybe 4 times memorably. When she walks across the screen after the daycare, when she traps us in the security room, when she chases us after starting the Showtime disc, and in the security room where the whole Gregory venting meme originated. Those are the 4 times, not including endings, where we see Vanny and can actually get killed by her, at least from my memory, since the main antagonist of the game is not even in the canon ending. So it's understandable why some people would be all up in a tizzy about the use of the main villain in this game. And honestly, it's actually kind of interesting, since Skyrim, one of the most revered and also broken games of all time, doesn't show their villain much as well. You see him maybe 4 times in the main story as well, but he's made out to be a bigger villain than it actually is shown. Every dragon you face is because of Alduin, the whole province is terrified of Alduin, there's a whole prophecy surrounding him. That's how you make a good villain in a broken game. Especially when he only shows up a few times. Which Security Breach ironically also is. Like, it's also horrifically broken, but they didn't do well with their villain. And at 9, the Puppet. The Puppet is certainly hated by William, which ends up earning it a spot on this list. But interestingly enough, the guy who created the Puppet isn't the only one who hates the creation that gave gifts and gave life to the other animatronics. In fact, he wasn't even the first one to hate it. Way back in the day, after FNAF 2's initial release in 2014, we made the connection that Purple Guy hated the Puppet, and so did the Phone Guy. So then, we all ended up assuming that Phone Guy was the killer, since at the same time we had no name or reason otherwise to think that the Purple Guy was anyone else other than the Phone Guy. At least until Scott commented on MatPat's video saying that it wasn't the case, saying MatPat almost got everything right. However, I'm sure that the guy who's also killed all the various kids in the series does also hate the Puppet, especially when it's the reason that all the other animatronics came to life, which ultimately ended up being your downfall. So. And at 8, Glitch Trap. While Glitch Trap is certainly a popular version of William Afton, certainly being more popular than Scrap Trap at the very least, he's not as popular as some other versions, and still has one of the creepiest vibes out of all of the William Aftons, mostly because of the dancing. And yes, the dancing is the reason Glitch Trap is on this list, because who the living, or I guess undead sentient code living hell, would think that this is a good dance? This is some of the most horrendous dancing I've ever seen, and have you seen my dance moves? They're horrible. I am like the whitest white dude trying to dance ever. But there's like my bad, and then there's Glitch Trap's bad. And honestly, a dude being kept alive by the spirit of his dead son who was shoved full of robotic parts trying to kill me, that's fine. I can deal with it because it's so painfully unrealistic. But a dude just in a furry suit trying to lead me to the back of the pizza joint for a little extra party is too much, okay? That's why it's so creepy. Because removing the context of he's just sentient code, that is absolutely horrifying. And also just plain wrong. And at 7, Fazbear Entertainment. I think arguably the biggest villain in the entirety of FNAF isn't even William, but rather Fazbear Entertainment. If we want to go like cause and effect, yes, William created Fazbear Entertainment. However, this company has gone on to do plenty of messed up things without him. Fazbear's Fright, reopening however many times they have, even though people are constantly killed at their locations. I'm sure plenty of other corporate crime as well, like espionage and fraud. Oh, and the entirety of FNAF AR, since they're intentionally sending out animatronics that they know are messed up to families all over the world. One of the higher ups of the company is still working for Afton, as we learned from Security Breach's lore baskets, since someone very influential at the company recommended Vanessa for security guard despite her having no prior experience. And I mean, come on, someone had to pull the strings to build on where the FNAF 6 pizzeria was. So in my eyes, the biggest villain is Fazbear Entertainment in general. However, this isn't a biggest villains list, it's the scariest villains list, so they're only number 7. And at 6, Nightmares. The Nightmare animatronics first introduced in FNAF 4 have caused ungodly amounts of grief for anyone trying to piece together the lore of this godforsaken series. See, there are some community members, such as myself, who believe that the FNAF 4 animatronics are figments of Crying Child's imagination that he sees in a coma while trying to survive his chomping. But then there are others who understandably think that they were figments created by the sound illusion discs introduced in the Twisted Ones novels, since those animatronics are basically the book equivalent of the Nightmares. crisp. And then somehow they appear in Ultimate Custom Night despite both versions of these, how these were created, having Crying Child as the only one who sees these animatronics. And then people want to go on saying that Crying Child is not the one you should not have killed. Ironically enough, the Nightmare animatronics have given me a lot of restless nights. And not because I'm scared or thinking about Chica, but just because of the lore. The goddamn lore. Halfway through into number 5, Balloon Boy. Balloon Boy isn't a scary animatronic, okay? The dude just looks like he's a dealer on like a grudge match against the man or something. What is Balloon Boy's deal anyway? Like he messes with the lights. Okay, so what? The poltergeist in my apartment does the same thing when I'm sleeping. Why would I care about a little dude running around carrying a bunch of balloons like he just discovered that helium can change your voice or something? Get a life, Balloon Boy. Get out of my office. Like, don't make me call your mom. Like, what are you doing? Try sulfur hexafluoride. That makes your voice deeper. You fucking need it, you narc. In it for Crying Child. Aside from just being a little crybaby Caillou mimicking in FNAF 4, Crying Child also started the whole debate of the bite of 83 versus the bite of 87. And I say this every time, basically, but the line is so blurred now that even if you look up the bite of 87, you get pictures of FNAF 4, which a few of our editors have had happen to them in the past, and then people were yelling in the comments saying, that's the bite of 83. Like, I know, okay, we know. But they don't know the series as well as I do, so it's understandable, and they don't want to know the series as well as I do, which is also understandable. Which only furthers my point as to why this child is also a menace, okay? Anyone looking to get into the series that looks up the bite of 87, one of the most iconic dates in all of FNAF history, would see these images and think that FNAF 4 takes place in 1987, when it in actuality really takes place in 1983, as confirmed multiple times. But people are still adamant on it taking place 4 years after it actually does, and it's annoying. Do you know how many hate messages I've gotten that just end up being because the person yelling at me thinks the bite of 87 is actually the bite of 83? Yeah. It's bad. And Crying Child is the reason that this damn thing happened in the first place. Or part of the reason. I mean, like, overall, he wouldn't have gotten crushed if he didn't exist, so, like, yeah, I don't like him. Getting close to the end in number 3, Charlotte. Charlotte Emily, otherwise known as Charlie, is the main protagonist of the novels Five Nights at Freddy's The Silver Eyes and The Twisted Ones, and the secondary protagonist of The Fourth Closet. In The Silver Eyes, Charlotte is described to be a teenage girl with a round face and rosy cheeks, with brown wide eyes that glisten, and frizzy light brown hair. She wears a white t-shirt, black jeans, combat boots, and denim jacket, and it always looks like she's about to smile, somehow. And despite her sweetness and kind personality, she likes to be independent, and she doesn't actually get captured by William, but it's a long story, okay? In the books, she's actually the one who kinda killed William in the spring Bonnie suit, even though I guess now we know that he didn't actually die in that suit, but she also finds it hard to trust people. However, what makes her a villain isn't her trust issues, it's actually because unbeknownst to her, she is an animatronic robot that was meant to replace the daughter that Henry had lost. But it's also revealed that the animatronic is also the baby animatronic that we know and love, who can switch between her forms at will. And the human version of the animatronic doesn't remember being baby. This human animatronic also looks a lot like an actual human. It can even bleed. So yeah, Charlotte in the books is also baby. That's pretty damn freaky. Penultimately, in number 2, Michael Afton. Michael Afton is also another problem in my opinion. Like, I could go over how he caused a load of people to think that the purple guy and William were two different people thanks to him turning purple after Ennard was beating up his insides and rearranging his guts, literally. But really, Michael to me just seems fairly entitled. Like, yeah, he's trying to right his father's wrongs and whatnot, but looking at him, he's not doing it because he's a good person. He's doing it because he feels bad, and not because of some higher noble purpose. He blames himself for getting his brother killed, which subsequently means that anything he does, he's doing to try to make himself feel better about his mistakes. And he doesn't even really have the gall to actually stop his father once and for all. He says that he's going to come find him, but when he actually does find him in FNAF 6, he doesn't burn the place to the ground to stop him. Henry's the one who does that. Henry is the only one willing to actually stop William, and that just shows how not serious Michael is. He just wants redemption in his own mind. If he really wanted to make sure that William was stopped, he wouldn't have let himself burn in the FNAF 6 fire. But he does let himself burn so that he won't have to feel the regret of hurting his brother and the curse of knowing what his father is doing and then and continues to do after this game. You know I'm right. And finally, in at number 1, William Afton. I think that the William Afton fan club, for lack of a better term, is split evenly down the middle of those who love to hate him and those who love and or hate to love him. And honestly, those who love him might love him a little too much. Like serial killer groupies or apologists who are like, yeah, I love him. But even worse, because so many people see William as a rotting corpse. In essence, he's actually just like a skinned human in an animatronic suit, but there is some serious baggage there if that's what you're into. Talk about daddy issues! If you're so desperate for a father figure that you'll simp for a homicidal maniac stuck in an animatronic robot, yeah, I'm sorry. William needs to die and be killed off permanently, for God's sake, okay? Like seriously, we need to cut this off at the source and remove any form of Afton from our lives so that I can forget about all the horrendous art that I've seen and been sent over the years. Now don't get me wrong, the actual art was good. Like those who drew it were very skilled, but the horrendous nature comes from the content of the art, not the actual like skill of the artist, if you know what I mean. Like they drew horrible things, but they drew horrible things well. You dig? And at 10, scrapped. The scrapped animatronic jump scares could be surprising if you're just like chilling in your office playing Fruity Maze. However, when interviewing or testing them when you first get them out of the back alley, the scariest thing in this jump scare is actually just the sound. After that, you're okay because they just stand up a little bit. Like when you don't get the loan that you wanted at the bank and then you start standing up because you think like, how could they do this to me? Or like, I guess characters in movies and TV do that, because I guess most of the people watching, I doubt that you've tried to get a loan from the bank, let alone failed. But everyone on TV always stands up. That's it though. That's all this jump scare is, nothing more. They move forward a little bit, but they're not just like suddenly in your face. They're not slashing at your throat. They're like, hey, I'm functional, which is just kind of lame. But if they get into your office, that's a different story. That's a different jump scare entirely. And at 9, Phantoms. The Phantom animatronics from FNAF 3 are the scariest things in that game, aside from the backstory. The design of the animatronics may be simple, but the idea that the jump scare doesn't end your game and in fact makes you panic is actually genius. However, with that being said, eventually you figure out the signs for when they're about to appear. For example, you check a camera and Phantom Foxy is blocking it. The minute you close the camera, you're going to get jump scared and something will malfunction. Once you know the signs, the jump scares won't really be able to get to you, and once these stop getting to you, you won't really be scared by this game anymore, and I'll get to why later on. But at least the Phantoms add some unpredictability to the game, but only in the form of mechanics. Making sure that no strategy will ever be foolproof, not unpredictability in the scares, because like I literally just said, you can guess those fairly easily. And at 8, Jacko Chica. Jacko Chica is a scary animatronic. Being introduced in the FNAF 4 Halloween update and later making it into Help Wanted's DLC, I want to avoid this animatronic. Okay, I always wanted to. However, in the Pirate Ride minigame, it may actually be impossible. No, I know. No, that's right. In the second helpy section that gets revealed, the one at the end of the level, you get taken through the back rooms of the pizza place, and one of which appears to be the kitchen, where Chica is standing outside. To get her to move out of your way, you must hit a scrolling red button to call her back inside. If you miss this, however, she will turn around and run at you. The jump scare is easy, because you see it coming. You literally watch as her chicken feet slap the floor as she sprints full force at you. Like one of those like, oh, this is what ducks' feet sound like on different surfaces TikToks. She just comes at you like you're a freshly cooked pizza pie, but you see her coming, so you know when the scare is coming too. And at 7, Mrs. Afton. See, now Mrs. Afton is on this list specifically for me, because I hate Mrs. Afton, and while she may never have actually been in the games, the community has managed to make her absolutely unbearable anyway, mostly because of all the different versions of her that people claim are canon. Okay, Clara Afton isn't canon. It's based off a character from a show in the FNAF universe where the guy wearing purple isn't even named Will, so I don't know why you think that the name of Clara is actually the canon one if he's not named Will, he's named Vlad, so what, is William Vlad now? No, he's not, exactly. Mrs. Afton also does not possess Ballora. Ballora was meant to represent the mother of his kids, but she is not possessed by the mother. And for God's sakes, we don't know what happened to her. Stop yelling at me in my DMs and comments saying that she died in a car crash or that she is possessing Valora. There's people even commenting on Gaming Elite saying that she's possessing Valora. No, stop it, okay? None has been confirmed. The only thing that's been confirmed is that she literally has to exist because William has kids. Hell, if his kids are adopted, Ballora could have just represented a surrogate mother so that his kids would have one, or someone he dated for a bit and then got way too invested in. I can relate to that one. Either way, thanks to all this crap surrounding her, I hate Mrs. Afton. In its 6 minigames. FNAF 2's minigames were some of the most confusing but helpful parts of FNAF 2's story. Little between-night minigames that would help break up the stress of those nights. However, they would also still get you with a jump scare related to the character in that minigame. When the minigame ended, you'd get jump scared, leaving us petrified. The first time. However, after that, we instantly knew what to expect and when to expect it, leaving the jump scare to maybe shake us at most, solely due to the noise that plays along with the character jumping at you, which is unfortunate. It's desensitization at its finest in its purest form. Halfway through into number 5, the Blob. The Blob is a massive sized proportion of wire, tentacles, and animatronic parts with possession of many glowing red eyes, because of course it does. The Blob's main head has a mask identical to that of Funtime Freddy instead of Molten Freddy, with black eyes and pinkish red glowing pupils, and the endo face reveals to have metal plates rather than wired tubes as well, which is also confusing. Their body has a large black mass made of tentacle wires, and it appears to be a larger version of Molten Freddy after the pizzeria simulator fire, but again, it's Funtime Freddy's face, which doesn't make sense. It's also far more grotesque and mixed with parts of other animatronics and endoskeletons. If you look closely, you can see older animatronics like Circus Baby, Puppet, Chica, Mangle, Bonnie, several Endo Mark IIs, and probably many others on the actual inside. However, this dude thing is creepy as all living hell, and while they haven't done much since they haven't been in the series much, I still don't like them. Currently, all they've really done is either kill Gregory or potentially save William. Some people like to believe that the Blob killed William, but I'm only going to be certain that he's dead when he dies on screen. So the Blob pulling Afton away from a fire that he could have just left him at and let the bastard burn makes them a villain in my eyes. Also, we know that they're meant to be evil. It just looks like a giant black Freddy flubber booger. In it for Mangle. Mangle's jump scare from Ultimate Custom Night is sad in my opinion. It feels like I didn't get my money's worth out of the game, and it feels like it's really a FNAF fan game instead. Why? Because it's just a static picture that gets shaken around on screen. And I'm pretty sure the same thing goes for Nightmare Mangle too, just a PNG that gets shaken around a little bit, like me when I was a baby. There's not much to do with it other than a noise, okay? That's it. And while the noise may do a little bit for you, you usually need the visual to help enhance the effect. You need to shock multiple senses. Honestly, a lot of the Ultimate Custom Night jump scares are like this. I'm sure that you've been able to tell that, okay? I had a few of them on this list. It's unfortunate, but I understand not wanting to animate 50 different animatronics. That would suck, but come on, Scott. Come on. Getting close to the end, in number 3, Cassidy. Cassidy's hate stems from a similar place as Mrs. Afton's. That place being my own bias because it's my list, so deal with it. But in this case, I don't like Cassidy because of all the wrenches they caused and what we already thought we knew about the story. Like the whole one you should not have killed thing, which I personally still don't believe. I'm certain the one you should not have killed is Crying Child and not Cassidy. But even still, the whole 2 souls theory that's being taken as canon also is due to Cassidy and the very obscure name revealed that was the survival logbook. It's a whole can of worms that honestly didn't need to be opened. And even after it was, here I am trying to sort everything out, put the worms back in the can, and people are mad at me for it because I'm not MatPat. I have no hard feelings towards MatPat by any means. In fact, I think that Matt and I would do great work together if we put our minds to it. However, damn people in the comments get defensive even if you don't directly mention him, as long as you say something that's slightly against it. You say one thing that MatPat hasn't, like how Golden Freddy is Cassidy and only Cassidy, while the one you should not have killed is Crying Child, because logically that makes more sense, and boom, you're public enemy number 1. top 10 FNAF public enemies. Penultimately, in at number 2, Grim Foxy. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The glory and actual scare of a jump scare comes from the surprise factor. The fact that you don't know when it's coming, or maybe you had like the build up beforehand. Grim Foxy in the Corn Maze minigame is quite possibly the most anticipated and expected jump scare out of every single game and every single animatronic in the series. You literally get notified by in-game sounds when he notices you, and then you have a decent amount of time to hide before he actually catches up. Dude runs like this.
He runs like this fast. It's...
You have so much time that I was able to recite whole vines in a live stream before he actually caught up to me. Like, don't get me wrong. When he did get me, I was acting scared, okay? I'm sorry, but it's true, okay? I wasn't actually scared. The scarier thing was my coworkers trying to put me on edge and trying to bust into the office to scare me, which I ended up catching on that stream because they didn't think that I would have locked the door when I was in VR. Yeah, if you have time to prepare for the scare, okay, it's not scared. And finally, in at number 1, Springtrap. I understand that most of you may find Springtrap to be a scary character, and that's understandable. No, it's not. It's stupid, okay? His backstory is creepy. Yeah, he's the killer of the series, and he's still alive in the suit after plenty of metal was shoved into his body at the speed of spring locks, but he's mid. He's mid, to quote TikTok comments. So you'd figure his jump scare should be the scariest though, right? Because, like, you know, he's the killer, haha. Well, while the noise that plays may be scary, Springtrap himself does little but move around in a zigzag while slowly making his way towards the player. Like, come on, man, you're a killer. I understand that, like, you're in your murder suit and you're calm and collected, but dude, this could have been the scariest game in the series, and because, like, the design of Springtrap is chilling, but it was so bad and the fans were so disappointed with it that Scott ended up extending the series since it was meant to be the final game. He actually said this in an interview with Daco. FNAF 3 was meant to be the final game in the FNAF series. Damn. But yeah, something that bad definitely deserves to be number 1. He made Scott rethink the entire series. Springtrap's the reason we have 10 FNAF games. Shoot me. In at 10, Phone Guy. While in the end the phone guy wasn't the killer, he still isn't very helpful in the long run considering how he says we aren't really gonna get killed. Well, okay, look, he warns us to be careful, but he doesn't really say, oh yeah, you'll die. I don't like him, okay? He should have done more than just say, be careful, it's trial and error, which is in essence what he said. Because honestly, after surviving this job for so long, you'd think that whoever this phone guy is would have some goddamn tips on how not to die, but he just gives us the freaking company history. Bro, I don't care if one of the animatronics bit someone, okay? They're trying to actually kill me. What do I do? Like, someone's head got bit 5 years ago, okay? I don't care. They're trying to eat my brain, okay? My Prada's at the cleaners, along with my hoodie and my animatronic flip-flops, you pretentious phone guy, okay? Why don't you come and keep this job so that I don't have to put my life at risk, huh? I don't care if you're dead. Come on, you stupid mother. In at 9, Michael Afton. Now, while Michael Afton is seen as the hero of the story, trying to shut down William's criminal spree despite being his child and whatnot, in my eyes, Michael is also a villain, because this kid is the reason there is a FNAF story to begin with, okay? Look, if this kid had just offed himself or ended up dying like his siblings, nobody would have been around to tell the story of the Aftons. We don't even know if Henry would have been trying to stop William without Michael bringing attention to it, okay? And considering how this channel has made over 400 FNAF videos at this current moment, those are all because Michael Afton just had to keep on kicking instead of kicking the bucket. We've made over 400 FNAF videos total, but in rough estimates, currently I've posted around 300 of those, which is actually insane and honestly scary as hell. And all of this because Michael just had to chase dear old dad and try to ruin him. If you put that effort into becoming like the CEO of Fazbear Entertainment once your father disappeared, maybe you could have done more good, okay? Afton would have been stuck in Fazbear Frights' room forever, and you could have stopped the company at its roots and then turned it into something maybe more productive. And it ain't Glamrock Freddy. This is another character that is intended to be a friendly one but ends up doing more harm than good. The existence of Glamrock Freddy in Security Breach is a good thing. He serves as your protector and is the first really friendly animatronic in the games, but he makes himself a villain in my eyes just by being stupid. He could have just left Gregory in his stomach cavity and then gone about the night and kept him safe until it was 6 AM, but instead he makes me go through this whole damn pointless goose chase just for the doors to reopen at 6 a.m. again? Why couldn't I have just chilled in his green room, okay? The curtains were closed, Vanessa and Vanny didn't know where I was. Realistically, I should have just stayed in there until 6 a.m. and then I could have made a break for the doors. I didn't get out any faster by doing this, like Freddy said I would. Like, for game purposes, you have to go through this in order for time to progress, but if I had just chilled in Freddy's green room, technically, I could have waited until 6 and I'd be fine. Like, that's what should have happened. And since it didn't, Glamrock Freddy is a villain. And at 7, the puppet. The puppet, while having a spooky backstory, isn't the scariest looking animatronic. The character is just a tall puppet and doesn't really have much else going for it. It's just a tall, lanky bean like me, aside from the tall. But this jump scare is also predictable if you're paying attention to the music box, and especially in the case of FNAF VR, since you literally see the puppet walking down the hallway like this. Literally like this. It's the weirdest thing. The first time in the entire series where we actually see the character walking with their feet touching the floor. And they walk easier than Ballora. Sure, we see Nightmare on the floor in FNAF 4, but that's not the puppet, only a fearful reflection. And we never see the character's feet, okay? I figured it was just floating around, which would also make sense because honestly, this puppet skips leg day more than me. And I only work out when I go to like a ninja warrior training course, okay? But seriously, the puppet is like the least scary animatronic, and that's on a list that includes less scary characters, okay? Some even are supposed to help you, or at least test your ball pit. The walking like this is really what sells it for me. And at 6, Ennard. While certainly creepy as a Ennard isn't all that scary in my opinion. He's certainly scary looking, but as a villain, all Ennard wants to do is escape. And once they do, and your flesh suit draws too much attention, they bail. Their only crime really is hijacking your body without your consent. But other than that, they don't really seem to do anything major. Baby ends up separating from them before they do anything crazy, and after Sister Location, the next time we see them is in Pizzeria Simulator, and between those two games, they seemingly don't have any kills under their belt. Why they wanted to escape only to later not do anything is one question, but in reality, since they don't do anything, we're really safe around them. Well, until they start trying to kill us in Pizzeria Simulator, but honestly, they didn't want us dead in Sister Location, so I think that they're pretty chill. However, there is the possibility of them being filled with the remnant of the original Missing Children animatronics, but that's in the novels, so there's no way of proving that this is truly the case with the games. Halfway through into number 5, Gregory. This goddamn kid, okay? I don't like him, and apparently a lot of people are with me. This kid, no reference to the whole venting thing, is sus as hell. Gregory is one sussy baka. But in actuality, this guy is just a menace. I said this in a video and people didn't like me for it, but Gregory commits plenty of crimes within just what we see in the game. Not to mention what we can infer as well. Breaking and entering, trespassing, stealing security badges, stealing Fazbear merch, vandalism, destruction of property, grand larceny for stealing Freddy, hacking the animatronics, murder. Gregory straight up kills Vanny in the phaser blast ending without it being in self-defense, since he's the one who initiated the conflict and Vanny really shows no interest in killing Gregory outright, especially because she has robots that could have done it and she doesn't use them. And then he tears her to shreds using those robots, which is absolutely too much force to constitute a sufficient argument for self-defense. This kid is incredibly messed up, yet some people think that he's a hero because he's the first protagonist to actually do something, okay? He didn't need to. He should have just chilled with Freddy in his green room and then just like kicked back and relaxed, especially if he didn't have a home to go back to and instead sleeps in a cardboard box. I think that Freddy's green room is much better than that. So he should have just chilled there. Freddy wasn't going to try to report him to Vanessa. He would have protected him if Vanessa came a knocking. Gregory is stupid and he deserves to be hated. I wonder how many people say that about me. And at 4, Scott Cawthon. Now I could say that Scott Cawthon is the villain because he made the series and continued it after he originally intended to end it, and thus caused me to have to talk about these theories for 8 hours a day, at least 5 days a week. However, this can get even more meta than that. I could say that Scott Cawthon in-universe made FNAF games, which also helped to contribute to Fazbear Entertainment coming back and reopening yet again with the Pizzaplex. But again, I can get even more meta than that, believe it or not, because way deep in the infamous FNAF World game, Scott Cawthon is the final boss, or at least his avatar is. And you know what? I think that deserves number 4. Anim Dude, otherwise known as Scott Cawthon, the storyteller or Omega Scott in the game files, or the Puppet Master by 8-Bit Fredbear, is the main antagonist and final boss of FNAF World. He can only be fought in hard mode, after beating security and entering the tent afterwards. His appearance is a 3-dimensional representation of Scott Cawthon's icon avatar, art, which originally came from one of his previous games called There Is No Pause Button. But either way, he was the main antagonist of FNAF World, so it counts. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, Helpy. Helpy from Ultimate Custom Night is another one of those jump scares that is really just a static image being shaken around, which isn't really that bad to begin with, but throw in the fact that Helpy is probably the most adorable and friendly looking animatronic, and his jump scare doesn't even end the game, and you're fine. It doesn't make things any worse either. He doesn't activate music, man. He doesn't kill you. He just wants to say hi. His jump scare noise is even the MLG horn sound effect just sped up a little bit. Helpy is literally cheering you on while you play through one of the most stressful games in existence. That's like when everyone thought Foxy was trying to help out in the original FNAF game, except this time it's legit. He's just being a bro and giving you the love and support that we all need and should be getting. Whether it's from our other bros, gals, or significant bro or gal. Yeah. Any loved one in my life needs to hype me up as much as Helpy was, okay? Or it ain't worth it. That's my standard, okay? The bar's being raised. Ironically,
I wrote this while I was...
penultimately, in at number 2, Gregory. Gregory is a villain and a criminal mastermind no matter what you people tell me in the comments. You can justify it all you want. He's still committed multiple crimes against Utah and its people, including murder, if you go by the phaser blast ending where Gregory orders robots to disassemble Vanny, like I explained in a previous video. Link to the Is Gregory a Criminal video in the iCard, whatever side it's on. But seriously, the crimes this guy commits within only what we see in the game is insane. Stealing, trespassing, destruction of property, grand larceny for stealing Freddy, and like I said, if you pick the phaser blast ending, Gregory kills Vanny. And it's not like he could claim self-defense, given that he actually chose to confront her instead of leaving, which can confirm premeditation, frankly. And he uses way too much force to justify self-defense. Whether you like it or not, Gregory is a criminal and a villain and deserves to be in prison, no way around that. And people are justifying this, okay? And the people who do, you need some form of therapy, just like Gregory and Vanessa were getting. Just like, come on, think about it. Gregory is a horrible person, and he could have just chilled with Freddy and been fine, but he went out of his way to destroy the animatronics, even paraphrasing the Joker when talking about them, omitting the swear word for you get what you deserve. Finally, in at number 1, Baby. Originally known as Elizabeth Afton when she was alive, Circus Baby is the primary antagonist of Five Nights at Freddy's sister location. The soul of William Afton's daughter resides within her, alongside Baby's own consciousness. In FNAF 5, she removes her endoskeleton from her costume, and her fellow animatronics end up combining to create Ennard. So, she's already been on this list in the form of Ennard, and not only that, but she's also the reason Ennard was seemingly so brutal. Plus, she was also on this list because of Charlotte. However, that's the books. In the games, she pretends to be our friend the whole time in Sister Location, keeping us alive so that we would trust her, only to get tricked into going to the scooping room, where she could then forcefully enter our body and escape. Like top 10 anime betrayals, and Baby is at the top of this list. It's like she pretended to be our friend for the whole season of the show, but in the second last episode she's revealed to be the villain. Not to mention the various versions that she has in FNAF AR, like Broiler and Heartsick Baby. No thank you, sir. And those goddamn plush babies are just as bad, and they're goddamn plushies. Baby is the scariest FNAF villain that isn't Afton, and that's why she's tops this list.